All right, Rachel, let's go ahead and begin. We just started recording. So, thank you all for everyone that's joined on with us for our Soul session hosted by Feed the Soul Foundation. My name is Dr. Ashley Atkins. I am serving as one of the co executive directors alongside Jonathan Howard. Tonight, we have the amazing HR specialist, Rachel Ramsey. She's going to talk to us about how to build an amazing team, hiring and training tips for restaurants. So, without any further ado, I will pass it to Rachel. You all enjoy.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I'm so excited to be here with Feed the Soul Foundation, and I'm excited to share some tips and tools from my industry to yours. First, before we start, a few housekeeping rules. First things first, please mute your microphones if you haven't already done so. The second thing is if you have questions, I will probably have some time at the end to answer all of your questions, your concerns about any topic that I'm talking about tonight. But if you do have questions, you can use the chat box function and type it in there, and we will certainly get to it. And then, even if we don't have time tonight, you can always send me an email, and I'll give you my email at the end. All right. So first things first, we're going to talk a little bit about me, who I am. As Ashley said, I am Rachel Ramsey. I own a HR consulting firm called Measured HR. I've been in the business for about 15 years, and I have done every role from general manager to executive chef to pastry chef. So I am really well versed in the operations function in a restaurant. I moved from culinary arts to HR about 7 years ago, and I'm so excited to bring that knowledge to human resources function. So today we're going to talk a little bit about building your teams in a cohesive way so that you can prepare for the future. So for us, building a team is no different than crafting the perfect cocktail, dish, or dessert. It's a mixture of textures and flavors and aromas. And I approach the world of human resources and people ops the same way I approached culinary arts. And today I'm going to give you tips and tools to perfect your team building skills, to help you become a better employer, and give you management acumen and give you some confidence, right? So, to build the perfect team, you will first need to be number one, the best employer, right? You have to be the right employer. Secondly, you want to be able to leverage tech to meet your needs. Third, you want to diversify your talent pools. After that, you want to be able to manage through all types of instability. And we have had tons of instability over the past year and almost 2 years now. And lastly, you want to be able to retain, borrow, and build your talent pools up. When done well, you will end up with an excellent product, a workplace culture that's you will be the envy of so many people, and you will have an amazing team. So we're going to start off with the first ingredient, right? And so that is building and being the right employer. So to build your perfect team, it starts with you, the employer, yourself. Although the market is extremely competitive and it's difficult to find talent, many employees do not want to come back into our industry, right? So we wonder why turnover is high. We wonder why there's poor company culture, right? And it comes down to leadership. Being a great company is a decision and it requires commitment. So we're going to walk through some of the attributes of a great company. The first thing I believe that a great company has is company values. So, values help bring various teams and workforces together with a singular defined mission and direction. Too often, companies assume that their workforce knows what's important, number one, and they think that they understand what their values are. So having statements on the wall, on your website, or even in your handbook, it doesn't mean that employees have gotten the message. The great employers not only communicate those values through a clear, steady cadence of information, they reinforce it with principles through actions, policies, and their business ventures. The second thing we're going to talk about is wellness, right? So, wellness is a hot topic right now, but that's for a good reason. The pandemic highlighted what so many of us already know. The bar and restaurant industry takes a toll on our financial, mental, physical, and emotional health. The best companies have decided that they are committed to competitive living wages and comprehensive medical benefits. EAP programs are becoming increasingly popular as well. So, an EAP program, they allow for people to get employee benefits at low cost, and sometimes it's even free for their employee and for their employer. Often, these programs are increasingly popular with small businesses, right? Other options that you might want to think about that are valuable to employees are subsidized Uber or Lyft rides or daycare benefits. But the goal is to tap into things that your employees need in order for you to be the right employer for them. So, the next thing you want to do is prepare for the future. So, what would happen if you lost your best employee today? Think about that. If you lost the number one employee, maybe that's the sous chef, maybe it's the head bartender, whoever it is, what would happen if you lost that person today? That's a critical question. So, as a business owner, you have to prepare for a day that that best employee leaves, right? Managers, owners, and supervisors can all participate in these efforts. So, you can do two things to prepare. Number one, you want to prepare the next person up to bat. So, that's the person who's waiting in the wings, who you're saying maybe they're not 100% prepared just yet, but you want to get them prepared for that job. And the second thing you want to do is allow that employee, that best employee, that one you really don't want to lose, you want to allow them to grow and flourish. So, here are some tools that you can utilize in this succession planning in order to prepare your next person up to bat, in order to actually utilize the tools of the best employee that you have and grow and flourish them. You can use job shadowing, mentoring, developing programs, and creating career pathways so that employees have a place to actually land when they're being developed and or when they're growing and flourishing. So the next thing we're going to talk about is leveraging tech. So the goal in mind is to find the balance where tech meets talent. So, number one, we're going to talk about the gig economy. So, the gig economy is here and it is here to stay. We're seeing a rise in independent contractors after the pandemic, but I'll say this trend started even before the pandemic. Um, you want to use this to your advantage and to your team's advantage, right? So the gig economy provides an easy way to access a flexible and available keyword right there, available worker pool who can help restaurants quickly grow or shrink their workforces at a low risk based upon current demand. So that means that if you have a time period where there is a lot of work, right, you can add on to your worker pool. And if there's a time period where you're starting to maybe the holidays have gone, maybe there's some different things happening and you need to kind of shrink your workforce for a certain amount of time, it's a great way to utilize the gig economy in order to do that. There are a couple of different organizations that help with these type of things. So Shift Pixie, Fountain, and Paired are three companies that you can pair your restaurant workers and you can get workers at a moment's notice, right? Other companies such as ShiftGig and Hire assist restaurants with the administrative side of engaging with contractors, like filling out paperwork and contracts. That is normally administrative tasks, or normally the number one thing people say they don't have time to do. So I think those are great organizations that you can use. And they all have apps, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely another way to leverage that tech for your usage. Other thing we're going to talk about is embracing and promoting the flexibility of your workers. So many who choose to be independent contractors do so because they value their autonomy. Often in the restaurant industry, we like to hold on tightly to workers, and we don't like those who be our part-time workers, or like I said before, those who are utilizing gigs, right? They're trying to have a gig. But if you lean into that as an employer, you can open a entirely new pipeline of candidates. So embracing and promoting that type of flexibility would be amazing for your teams. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about social media. So social media, obviously, right? We're all using it, but think about this. Where do you have the highest engagement for your business, right? Can you harness that same energy into hiring power? Can you utilize Facebook, Instagram, Clubhouse, whatever it is? Can you target your particular demographic and bring in hires? Recently, Chipotle utilized TikTok as a recruitment tool. They had job applicants invited them in, right? And they were creative by submitting short form video resumes through the social media app. So they utilized TikTok TikTok as a recruitment tool. So think about how you can get creative in your business with whatever social media platform that you see the highest engagement on. Video has become increasingly more commonplace. We're on video right now, right? Everyone has a Zoom account. Everyone is using Google Meet. There are two types of video interview techniques that you can utilize with your companies. The first is a traditional interview. So that is simply conducted via a video conference, right? This can be used in place of an in-person interview, and it saves candidates time. It saves you time, and it also saves them money. So anything you can use that can save your candidate some money as well is always going to win out. The second type of video interview that you can take advantage of is to send candidates questions in advance and then ask them to record themselves answering the questions. We do this quite a bit in recruiting, and it's a great way to cut down on phone interviews. So that saves you time as well. Automation is key. It is key when leveraging tech. As a leader, you have to manage multiple priorities, and leveraging tech is a great way to ensure that you spend your time on the things that matter the most, like managing and mentoring your teams. So you want to automate time-consuming tasks by troubleshooting processes that slow down your productivity. Once you identify the opportunities to automate, you'll start saving time very quickly. So some examples of this is creating templates to send to hundreds of candidates at once by using an email scheduler. Google has an amazing email scheduler, and it allows me to save time by typing up an email when I have the time and sending it out when I might be busy doing something else. If you're maybe you're in service, right? So that's a great way to use tech and automation and work together with that. Most things can be done from your smartphone. So I would highly recommend that you utilize smartphones with hiring. You want to accommodate the modern candidate and make sure that your job postings are mobile optimized. So what that means is you need to make sure that your application can be seen on a mobile phone and even filled out on a mobile phone. That's the best way to use tech to leverage your talent needs, right? So if you want to apply for a position at a company, you want to be able to get someone to use their phone to do it, right? Does the headline of the job application display correctly on the phone? Is it difficult to see? Those are some of the things you want to think about. You can also use a QR code generator as a link to your application, where someone can just take their phone, scan it on their with a camera, and then type in their information, right? You can generate a QR code very easily and free. So those are some types of ways that you can utilize tech to leverage your talent needs. The third ingredient that you need when you're going to create amazing teams is diversifying your talent pool. So, the true test of a diverse workforce is diverse leadership. But in order to develop diverse leaders in your organization, you must find that talent, right? So, here are some tips that we're going to use to diversify your talent pool. The first thing we're going to talk about is job descriptions. So, words matter, especially in a job description. It can either deter or invite underrepresented groups to apply. And some factors to consider when drafting an inclusive job description are the level of education, right? The restaurant industry is the perfect environment to value experience as well as education. So, does the candidate need a 4-year college degree? Or is relevant work experience what you're really looking for? So, is a Michelin star restaurant necessary to have on their application? Or do you value long term employment, right? Does that tell you more about the candidate? So, you want to make sure that those type of words, if you're going to put them on your resume, you can put them on your job description, make sure that they make an impact. Requirements. Think about the requirements. You want to include must haves for the role and move nice to haves to either preferred skills or remove them completely. Studies have shown that women will hesitate to apply to a job unless they meet 100% of the job requirements, compared to men who apply even if they only meet 60. So that means you might be missing out on some candidates because they believe, oh, I don't have every single thing on that box. Some of these requirements may not actually be requirements for the role. They might be something you would like to have. So you want to make sure that your job description is super, super tight. The next tip I want to give you is partnering. So instead of relying on job descriptions as your main source of hiring, consider partnering with a local program and explore how your company can create more access to opportunity in the tech industry. Or any industry or your restaurant industry. As an example, right? Year Up, Genesis Works, and Grads of Life are great organizations that help candidates develop soft skills before they apply for the job. Also consider local trade schools and restaurant associations. Is there a Black chef organization in your city? Think about that. Or is there a bartender advocacy group that targets women? Chances are Google will be your best friend here, right? You wouldn't imagine how many resources there are if you only look. And lastly, we're going to talk about the X factor. So, what is your X factor? Why should a candidate work for you? Why do you want them to work there? Right? So you have to communicate your X factor. Why should potential candidates choose you? Does your organization offer paid parental leave? Do you offer childcare subsidies, fertility benefits, paid family sick time, flexible time? Are you a flexible employer? What do you offer that is different from anyone else, right? So I see employers not even they don't even bring these things to the table, or they don't even put them in the job description. But that matters. So a business review at Harvard noted that regarding benefits, certain demographics preferred team bonding events and retreats and free food versus fitness and yoga classes and free gym memberships. Providing a mix of certain benefits like that are both inexpensive and highly sought after among job seekers, can give you a competitive edge, and any other business might not have that. So you want to think about those things when you're working through your postings and thinking about diversifying your talent pool. So the next thing we're going to talk about is managing through instability. So take a look at all of those words on the screen there, right? Look at these words. What emotions do these words spring up in you as an owner, as a either manager, as a leader, right? Do these things spark a good or a bad emotion? Do you consider these things to be a puzzle that you are being challenged to solve, or an issue to get through or just deal with? So, the biggest test of managerial competency is how you deal with stressors. And I found that confidence is the key to managing through instability. So, how do you build that confidence? Well, you can build confidence by understanding and developing core competencies of a good manager. And we're going to talk a little bit about some core competencies: integrity, team building, conflict resolution, flexibility, communication are just a few examples of these. Simply put, competencies are the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that contribute to an individual's success. Strengthening these attributes over time will help you excel in your current role or the role that you're preparing for. I guess and after that natural question is, so how do you develop your competencies? One way to do it is through stretch assignments. So stretch assignments are a project or task given to employees which is beyond their current knowledge, their current skill level, and it's given to them in order to stretch them developmentally. So you want to give them something that's not in their current scope, something that's going to challenge them, right? And the beautiful part about stretch assignments is that in the right environment, it can show you where someone's skills lie, right? So if someone can do that and step up to the plate, that's amazing. Then you know, well, this person has this competency. And so when I look at my employees for another role, I can recommend that person because I already know that they have that skill set. And so that's why stretch assignments are great to develop competencies. It challenges, like I said, it challenges employees and maybe places them in some uncomfortable situations, right? But it's a learning environment. It's allowing them to grow. One example of this is allowing maybe a bar back to complete inventory. That might be something that's not in their wheelhouse, right? If a bartender is only into the creative side, making drinks, making them taste amazing, or even a chef, if that chef is only into the creative side of cooking and plating things, that might be outside of their wheelhouse to start doing some administrative tasks. But those type of stretch assignments, in the end, will get them to the place where they want to be and help you as an employer. We're gonna talk a little bit about retaining and borrowing and building talent in a second. The last thing we want to talk about in developing competencies is doing some coursework and online learning and things like that. I truly believe that developing your competencies is also on you as the employee, as the employer, and even as the manager. We can all grow. And so you want to look into some online learning, look into classes and courses that can help you build those skills out. And so the last ingredient we're going to talk about is retaining, borrowing, and building talent. So we all know right now we are in the midst of a worker shortage, quote unquote. I get it. I am helping my clients bring in talent all the time. But I think that these tools will circumvent anything that's happening, right? So one thing that you want to do is retain your employees, right? While managers and owners, they play a key role here, I believe that everyone, including staff and supervisors, can contribute to an environment where retainment is high. So the first point we're going to talk about is building talent. So we just discussed building core competencies and doing things to build that skill set, right? So that is essential for promotion. It builds your skills, it builds your confidence, it allows you to do things that you would have never done before in your role. But the perfect employee is probably sitting right in your team. But we have to, as leaders, we have to dedicate time to building them, right? So focus on developmental goals with your current rock stars. Where will this employee be in 6 months to a year? You think about that. You have to think about where that employee is. Often we think about what's going to happen next week. We're thinking about what's happening right now. And I get it. We're in an industry where there's always something going on. But in order to develop your employees and build that employee, you have to think about the long term. So a lot of times we're afraid also to develop employees for fear that they will leave and go somewhere else. But that is not a growth mindset. And having a growth mindset when developing your employees allows you the freedom to not only develop them, but for you to take a step back and encourage people to build and encourage people to flourish. That is what gives you the atmosphere of being a great employer, right? We talked about that a little earlier in this session. So a growth mindset, building employees, focusing on developmental goals, and having a succession plan for 6 months, a year out, and a developmental plan for your best employees. The next thing we're going to talk about is borrowing talent, right? A lot of times in the industry, we have people there who are doing one job, and sometimes they can do something else. There's so many things that are interesting to people, but they never try it, right? So we want to talk a little bit about borrowing and internal hiring and career mobility, right? So we do that a lot in our industry from an HR perspective. We think about where can someone fit in another role. And so that's what borrowing talent is. Some of these things that we do are called job rotations, stretching assignments, and internal gig work, right? So doing a job for a small amount of time, gig work, but doing that internally, doing that within your organization, within your company. You know what? And you have not because you ask not. Maybe some of your back of the house team members are interested in mixology, right? Maybe the bar supervisor wants to be in HR. You never know what someone is capable of or what someone wants to do. And with dwindling resources right now, restaurants need to be smart and agile in order to survive. A lot of times we have an over reliance on external hiring, and that's actually bad business. Comparatively with strategies, alternative strategies, internal hiring, career mobility structures, and upskilling, right? Giving people the tools to do the next job, that in the long term requires less compensation, right? And there's less risk associated with those things, right? So internal hiring costs you much less than hiring externally. Why? Because you don't have to spend time on training on company culture. You don't have to spend time on giving them like certain knowledges and those orientation things like the cost of hiring an employee is vast. And so internal hiring and borrowing the talent from different places in your organization is certainly an easy way to build your team up. And the last thing you want to do is encourage employees to refer people in their network. Actively involve employees, if they're actively in the creation of developing the company, these employees feel responsible, right? And they feel like they have a stake in what you're doing, right? And sharing that responsibility allows them to be free thinkers and leaders in your organization, right? And so they will start to let you know, wow, yeah, I have this person. I can refer that person to you. All right, it's another great way to build that talent in your organization by utilizing the people that are already there. So it takes a plethora of components to build the perfect team. But with these tips and tools, hopefully you can master that art in no time. And here is my social. We'll go to the last page. Here's my social media contact, my website. If you have any other additional questions, please email us at info@feedthesoul foundation.org. If you have questions for me, we can certainly, and we have some time left, we can answer any questions you have. But thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.
All right, so we have the first question, and I apologize about the slides. We're a little off, you all. Our first question is from Brandy Guidry. Brandy, feel free to unmute and ask away.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you for your time and the great information you shared this evening. I actually had a question about with the stretch roles. I can relate to that because when I was still in corporate America, I did one of those. And I understand and respect that within the different industries, that time to do stretch roles could be different. So I was curious if you had a recommendation within the food and restaurant industry, if like a quarter would be good or something, because, it's a faster pace and there's like fires to put out literally sometimes, almost every day. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I totally agree with that. I think it depends on the size of your organization, right? So if you can give out some stretch assignments for a week, for a day, I think it still allows employees to build those skills over time, right? So yes, we can't allow someone to be in a role for 3 months, no, 6 months, something like that. But essentially doing internal gig work can be your stretch assignment, right? So we'll give you something for a week, see how you handle that. Maybe they can handle it and continue to do that, or maybe we give them something else. But I think that's the strategy: shorter time periods in order to get those stretch assignments. And probably because we're so fast paced, they can do those roles quickly, and they'll probably catch it on fairly quickly too.
Thank you. That makes sense. It's making me think too, like if there's a promotion or a soft opening or some branch out, like if they can exhibit and show that they stepped up to the plate during that unusual time, that can kind of be an indicator as well, I would think.
Absolutely. It's definitely an indicator of who has the goods to move into a new role.
Any additional questions? This is the perfect time to ask. Mr. Gumbo, Dante, go ahead.
Yep, I see it there.
Hey, I had more of a comment than anything. I appreciate you addressing the leadership component of hospitality. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and one of the biggest issues that we have is leadership. And so I'm happy to hear that. More times than other, it's we're being led by poor leaders, and then you got to go open your own place to get to become an executive chef or something like that. So I want to thank you for addressing that. I do have a quick question.
Sure.
A lot of my staff is family, and currently we're trying to move from kind of the independent contractor format to more employee based. It's a struggle. Any ideas or suggestions on how to kind of move folks from that stage?
Well, that's a big question. I think that first you need to, you figure out what the goal is, right? So, what's the reason behind moving from the independent contractor structure to an employee structure? So, you have to decide on what the goal is with that move, because for you as an employer, it can give you more flexibility, possibly, right? Or you can have more structure in place where these employees there's specific things that they will get and they'll be entitled to, if that's the reason why. But I think that's a deep question and I couldn't just give you a quick answer. But what I'll say is, how about this? You can reach out to me via email and we can talk it through, and whatever like specific questions you can tell me, really, all the details of what you're thinking, and I can help you with some strategy in order to get to the place where you want to get to.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and my email is and then everyone can take this down if you need it. It's Rachel, Rachel, at measured, MEASURED -HR.com. So shoot me an email. We'll talk through some of the. I need more specifics in this kind of confidential type stuff. So I need more specifics, and we'll talk through what strategies you can utilize to get you to the place where you need to go from an HR perspective.
And I'll put that in the chat as well for all those who may not have a pin on them.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had another quick one. You were going over the respective apps and sites. You said Shift, Pixie, as far as to.
Oh yeah,
If you could list those again, if you don't mind.
What I can do is let me copy and paste and put those.
Perfect. Thank you.
Chat. Yes. Some apps. Okay. Yeah, it's Shift, Gig, Hire. Yeah, but there it's all spelled interestingly. These are not. So let's put that in the chat. 2 right there, and then and these are 3 more.
Perfect. And then also be mindful that this recording will be available on YouTube. We will also highlight some of these important recommendations and suggestions of some of these softwares on our social media. So if you're not able to write this down for some reason, if you follow us, Feed the Soul on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you'll be able to see a couple of hot points from Rachel's webinar and also be able to get access to a lot of the suggestions and recommendations that she's offered tonight. Do we have any final questions before we wrap up? Any final words, Rachel?
Oh, no, well, I'm saying no when I'm talking. So, hiring, training, all these things, they're extremely difficult. And, if you need support, definitely let me know. But I'm excited for you and your businesses. And I hope that you are able to develop some great leaders and also find the right teams to support your growth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us tonight. If you guys do have any questions for Rachel, please feel free to email her. And if you want to learn more about Feed the Soul, please visit feedthesoulfou.org. And you can find information on our next Soul session, as well as grant opportunities, National Relief Fund opportunities that we currently have available, and all other programs and initiatives associated with the foundation. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Thanks. Bye.